Today, I'm going to share some juicy examples where pro photographers have been caught cheating in some of the world's biggest photography competitions. Images like this, and this are fake, and these cheaters have really pissed people off. I mean, you spend hours, days, weeks trying to get that one amazing shot, you submit it to a competition, and then bam, someone comes along and swoops the grand prize. Losing in a fair competition is frustrating enough. Never mind if the person who beat you actually cheated. And the final cheater that I'm going to reveal at the end of this video cheated by being, well, too real with his photography. It's crazy stuff. So let's get started with the first photography cheater, shall we? This first cheater is from one of the world's largest photography competitions, the Crew Awards, back in 2023. Now, you'd think that winning a competition that big would be a dream come true, right? Well, for one photographer, it turned out to be a real nightmare. Indonesian photographer Daiki Arani was crowned the overall winner of the Crew Photo Awards 2023, taking home a grand prize worth over $25,000. It's not bad, right? And the theme of the competition was, "Our world is beautiful." And Arani's winning photo was supposed to show the owner of a traditional Indonesian cafe enthusiastically playing cards. But get this, the presentation of the image as a documentary photo was completely false. Turns out the photos were actually taken at a conceptual photo shoot held at a studio to mark the launch of a new camera system. The studio owner, Buddy, revealed that the woman in the photo, known as McDonough, is just an ordinary person who lives near the studio and is often the subject of photographers who come to visit. She's not the owner of a cafe at all. And get this, Arani wasn't the only person taking the photos of that scene on the day that he got that shot. Other photographers who were at the same event shared their work online, and the photos are nearly identical to the one that won the grand prize. That's crazy, right? You can't just stage a scene and try and pass it off as a real-life documentary shot, my friends. That is obviously a big no-no in the photography world. Now, I don't know about you, but I think this is a pretty bold move to try and pull this one over the judges on one of the world's largest photo competitions. Talk about some serious on this dude. I mean, sure, winning a competition like that could be a game changer for your career, but come on, man. Surely it was never going to work. Right, okay, so with that in the books, let's take another look at a photographer trying to pull a fast one, but this time it's a little bit more playful. All right, so this next one is about a photographer who won a Nikon photography contest in Singapore called Look Up. And the winning shot was supposed to show a plane perfectly framed by a ladder and its safety cage, and it looks pretty impressive, right? Well, that's what Nikon thought too, until other photographers started poking around this specific image. Turns out Che Yu Wee didn't actually capture a plane mid-air. Nope, he just went ahead and photoshopped the plane in there to make it look more spectacular than what it actually was. I wish photography was that simple. I guess it is that simple if you're willing to lie about how your photos are created. But it all fell apart when other photographers started pointing out the obvious photo manipulation, and Nikon had no choice but to admit that they made, quote, an honest mistake in giving this guy the prize. And let me tell you, the internet did not disappoint when it came to roasting this poor photographer. There were memes upon memes upon memes. And even Nikon were obviously a little bit embarrassed here. They tried to remove all of the traces of this photograph from the competition page, the Facebook page, but I guess at this point the damage is already done. Nikon learned the hard way that you can't just slip a fake photo past. You might get it past the judges, but you won't get it past a bunch of eagle-eyed photographers who are consuming the content from the photo competition. Turns out us photographers actually care and pay attention to these things, right? So, with that said, let's move on to something even more controversial, and that is the world of AI-generated images and how they're influencing, or taking over, in fact, photography competitions. Now, this one is a real banger. AI-generated images are starting to infiltrate the photography world. It's happening whether we like it or not, depending on where you sit with AI photography, but it's causing a whole world of drama for people running photography competitions. Back in 2023, a photographer named Boris won the creative category of the prestigious Sony World Photography Awards with an image that looked like a vintage portrait of two women. But here's the kicker. It wasn't actually a photograph at all. It was an AI-generated image, using techniques such as in-painting, out-painting, and, of course, prompt whispering. Boris knew exactly what he was doing here. He entered the competition on purpose to challenge the industry and to spark a discussion as to whether AI creations should be allowed to compete against traditional photography in these kinds of awards. And boy, did he stir up a hornet's nest. When Boris realized that he'd won the competition, he actually declined the prize and the Sony camera equipment that came along with the prize, right? Saying that AI-generated images and photographs are fundamentally different, and so they should have their own separate competitions. He even went as far as to travel all the way from Berlin to London, spending around $800 of his own money just to take hold of the microphone and to deliver his statement live to the awards ceremony in person. Talk about commitment, right? And the funniest thing was that the organisers of the Sony World Photography Awards were caught completely off guard. After this event, they quietly removed all references to Boris's winning image from their website, the exposition, and they effectively tried to erase his victory from the official records. And this whole situation really highlights the tricky territory that we're entering right now when it comes to the rise of AI in the world of photography. I don't know about you, but I'm genuinely keeping a close eye on how all of this unfolds. It's going to be really fascinating to see how the industry adapts and evolves to keep up with all these rapidly changing technologies. And then, up next, we have another case of a photographer trying to pull a fast one, this time in the world of wildlife photography. Now, you'd think that's the prestigious Wildlife Photographer of the Year competition. Well, the rules would be pretty straightforward, right? Well, not for one Spanish photographer named Jose Luis Rodriguez. This guy managed to win the competition with a stunning, genuinely stunning image of an Iberian wolf leaping over a fence. But it turns out the wolf wasn't exactly wild. The wolf was actually a tame, captive animal that the photographer had hired for a specific photo shoot to capture this image. Yep, you hear right. Not a wild wolf, a tame one. And the crazy thing is that the competition's rules clearly state that they prefer images of wild animals over captive ones, but this photo shoot was set up, so this is a little bit of a grey area for the judges. And when the organisers at the Natural History Museum in London got wind of these allegations, they launched a full-on investigation. The experts concluded that the wolf was in fact a trained animal and not a wild one. And even more crazy, the photographer Jose denies any wrongdoing, but the evidence does seem pretty damning to me. I mean, come on, dude. Do you really think you could just sneak a tame wolf past the judges and get away with it? That'd be like trying to pass off your house cat as a majestic mountain lion, and that's just not gonna fly. Not when you're dealing with all these fellow nerd photographers who are gonna rip apart any photographer, any photo that they see as not being legit. Needless to say, Rodriguez was stripped of his title and the image was removed from the competition's website, the world tour, the whole shebang, and I can't say I blame them. In my humble opinion, not that anyone cares about my opinion, but in my humble opinion, wildlife photography competitions should be about capturing the beauty and the wonder of the wild, natural world. Which leads on to the next point of wildlife photography. Most of the time, the animals should be alive, right? Okay, so this next one is a doozy from, again, the Wildlife Photographer of the Year competition. This time, the winning image was of an anteater underneath some starry, beautiful skies with a glowing termite mound in the background, and it's amazing, right? The picture's beautiful. Well, that's what the judges thought too, until they started digging a little deeper. Turns out the photographer Marcio Cabral was accused of using a taxidermy specimen of the anteater in his winning image, rather than a live, wild animal, which I find pretty hilarious. I actually think this is absolutely hilarious. The Natural History Museum thought it was less funny. They run the competition. They launched, again, a full investigation. They even consulted with a team of experts of South African mammals and anteaters. And you know what? Well, the experts all agreed that the anteater in the image was very likely to be a taxidermy specimen, not a real animal. Which, again, if you're a wildlife photographer, you can just grab a bunch of taxidermy animals, stick them in a nice setting, especially at night where you can light it up all beautifully. Now, Cabral denies any wrongdoing and even provided the museum with raw files that he'd taken before and after the winning shot. But the thing is, and don't get me wrong, this seems a bit like dumb, even for me, even for my chimp brain. I wouldn't have done it this way around. But none of the images that he provided included the anteater, so either side of that one specific shot. Surely, if you were taking that shot and you knew that it was epic, 'cause it was beautiful, it's epic, you'd take more than one image at that moment in time, right? So I think this is a little bit suspicious. Anyway, the end result was that Cabral was stripped of his title and the image was removed from the competition's exhibition, website, and world tour. I guess he learned that you can't literally fake your way to the top of the world in wildlife photography. The judges of these competitions take their business seriously, my friends. hands. Next up is a case of a photographer who tried to beat the system, but ended up getting busted in a pretty hilarious way. Okay, so this last one has a little bit of a twist. It's about a photographer called Miles Astray, who decided to play a little bit of a trick on the judges of an AI-focused photography competition called the 1839 Color Photography Awards. Astray had noticed that AI-generated images were starting to beat out real photographs in some of these competitions that run across the world, and he wasn't so happy about it. And so he decided to take matters into his own hands and enter a real photo of a surreal flamingo into the AI category of a specific competition. And you know what? The judges were completely fooled. They not only placed Astray's photo in third place, but it also won the People's Vote Award. Can you believe it, right? These so-called experts who are supposed to be able to spot AI-generated images from a mile away couldn't even tell that Astray's photo was in fact the real deal. It was a real life scene that he'd photographed. And when Astray revealed what he'd done, the competition organisers were obviously a little bit miffed. They disqualified his entry, saying that while they appreciated the quote, powerful message, his submission didn't actually meet the requirements for the AI category of the competition. But you know what? I have to respect Astray's here. He was basically calling out the organisers for a lack of preparedness when it comes to dealing with the rise of AI in the photography world. And let's be honest, it's a pretty hilarious way to make a point, don't you think? And if you're feeling inspired to take your photography to that next level, why not check out the video that's on the screen right now? You never know, you might just pick up a few tips and tricks to help you avoid having to cheat to win your next photography competition.